So last month, man, that was not great at all for me, right? It kind of questioned my self-belief a lot, but I knew I had to keep on pushing through, and I knew that there was going to be better times coming for myself. During this period, there was a lot of distractions and also some good periods as well. Let's talk about the good periods first, though. I finally completed uni, you know? I had my final exams, studied for both of them quite well, and I hope to get good results out of that. But after finishing my uni, it kind of felt like an accomplishment on the first day, but then the first few days afterwards, it started to feel like it didn't give me a sense of reward that I thought it would give me. But then it hit me. Should this be something that I should be proud of, or was this all a waste of time? And it kind of made me reinforce the idea of not caring about the reward too much, but just enjoying the journey, enjoying the process. And the past few days, I was kind of annoyed because I felt like I wasted, the past 3.5 years. But then it made me realize that I built my character, I built myself in this 3.5 years. And uni was part of this. It was part of my consistency, it was part of my routine, it was part of me being a lot more disciplined and where my energy should be going towards. So it wasn't all a bad thing. But let's go back to last month though. You know, during the studying of those exams, I had a lot of stress, because I didn't want to mess up any of these exams because these were the last exams I was probably sitting for the rest of my life. I wanted to end on a good note. I was also chasing the future, meaning that I wasn't present when I was studying. I was mostly just trying to get everything done over with. And when you're thinking like that, you start to become more distracted because you're just waiting for things to happen rather than you trying to do those things. You trying to get over the finish line. And with that mentality and finishing uni, I kind of lost my sense of direction. I didn't know what was expected of me anymore. I put so much pressure on myself to perform in everything from now on instead of having fun. So like all those things, going to the gym, um, this YouTube channel as well, the getting a job as well, that pressure from getting a job, it's a big thing. It's a competitive market. And I just really wanted to perform well now. I had no excuse to perform bad because all my energy was going to go to these three things. So I was kind of wanting quick results. I was acting like my old self a bit. I was only looking for reward. I wasn't enjoying the process. And that kind of led me down the path of my old self a bit. I was going back to my old habits. I was doom scrolling. I was not setting boundaries when I should have. I was sleeping late and waking up late. Like my sleep routine completely diminished. Before I was like really on top of my sleep. It was going as bad as 12 a.m., 1 a.m. And when I was in the right mindset, it was like 10:30, 11 o'clock. So it kind of destroyed my self-confidence a bit. And then when you do wake up late, you kind of lose that motivation to just follow a schedule anymore because you feel like you already ruined the day. This period, this rut, you can learn a lot of things. It also gives you feedback on what your current system is helping you with and probably not as good at telling you as well. Because when I start to reflect on this month, there was a lot of distractions in that month as well. Like, for example, the World Cup. I love the World Cup. It's kind of nostalgia for me. I remember, watching the 2014 World Cup. That was when I was first introduced into football. I was watching Neymar, Messi, Ronaldo play. That was the first time I was introduced to them. And it just made me enjoy watching football. I wanted to watch more of it. So that kind of nostalgia driven dilemma around it led me to kind of fall off my routine a bit because I didn't set a good boundary for it. Because where I currently live, it's the matches are around 9 a.m., 11 a.m., which is when I normally do most of my work. And I like to get good. I like to do a lot of things in the morning, a lot of productive things in the morning. And me not doing these productive things kind of broke my system down because the morning for me kind of sets the tone for the day. If your morning isn't great, it's a lot harder for you to kind of stay consistent with your routine. So, having the World Cup there kind of was a big distraction for me. There was good periods as well where you're just enjoying the matches. You finish your uni and everything, but there's a part of me, there's a big part of me that really just wants to focus on the things I want to achieve instead. I feel like that's more fulfilling to me. But so going back to what I learned in that past month, the World Cup and any other entertainment is always going to be there. It's going to be there when you die as well. So you should kind of think of it as something that doesn't really impact your life that much. It has little impact on my life. I feel like the things that I do on a daily basis, in my routine, has more of an impact on my own life. So it's important that you kind of prioritize your priorities. You don't want to prioritize entertainment. It's always going to be there. Like, for example, if you watch the World Cup final, which I think is in about a week and a half, I believe, you could watch that final a year later and you would not regret watching that a year later because you didn't really miss out on anything because it didn't benefit you in any way. So it's important that you kind of delay things. It kind of taught me to delay things again. You don't need to watch everything live, and you're not missing out on anything. Exactly that. You're just not missing out on anything. And going back to the pressure of trying to perform, that is all in your head. That's something I realized because I was a big overthinker. I really wanted to think my way through problems a lot. But most of the time, it's just you being in a relaxed state is what is going to help you perform when there's pressure and when there isn't pressure. And the pressure is created by your own self, it's not created by other people. That's also an important thing that I did realize as well. During this period as well, because I was being inconsistent, you know, I use a habit tracker so I can visually see when I'm being inconsistent and falling back into old habits. And the main thing that I was telling myself in this period was, you are not as good as before. That was kind of ringing in my head. But when you keep telling yourself that, it actually makes you not as good as before because that is pretty much your new identity. That's your new belief. And if you keep telling yourself that, you're never going to actually progress. You're always going to stay below what your peak was before because you don't believe you can be better than before. So the main way I actually broke out of this was to tell myself that my older self actually never went through this bad month, this period where when I did start taking my life serious, where I didn't get a really bad month, I just got a bad few days at most, but I got a really bad month right now. And that old self never been through that. It kind of made me a lot more kinder to myself, and it also gives me a lot of feedback and a lot of lessons learned during this period that even when I do go back to my regular routine, I'll actually have more knowledge of how to overcome setbacks a lot faster than before. So at the end of the day, these bad periods is all it's gonna do is gonna make you stronger if you remain optimistic. And if you keep having these limiting or these beliefs where you're saying that you're not as good as before, that's gonna lead you into a longer spiral. You know, that's probably why my my rut went on for about a month, you know, because if you had a good positive self-belief, you know, positive thoughts in your mind, you probably would have overcame it in probably a few days. But because you have all these negative things in your mind, it drags you down even further, and it's a lot harder to overcome afterwards. And this goes to my final point now. Inconsistent periods should be taken as feedback, not negativity. I was taking this as negativity, you know, I wasn't taking this feedback. When I look back now and what I was saying in this video and the lessons I learned from this period, it's all feedback, you know. So when I did have a down period before in my life in the past, it was, you know, it was more of a negative thing. You know, I thought I was more lazy. I thought I was, you know, not being myself. But in reality, it's just, you just need to overcome this because life is not just a straight line going up. It's a lot of up and downs, but you want to trend upwards. That's the main thing. Because if you take it as feedback, you can correct your course, you know? Correcting your course meaning you're never gonna make that same mistake again because you understand if you go down that same path, you're just gonna make the same mistake and that's gonna result in the same outcome. So if you do have that, you know, that growth mindset, you have that mindset of learning from your mistakes all the time, or when you do have these down periods, is take it as feedback and actually apply it, you won't make the same mistakes again and you'll actually tend to move forward, you know? So I'm kind of a bit glad that I went through this period because it taught me as well. Maybe I was not as humble as well, you know? It did actually broke a bit of my ego, which is a great thing because before I would tell myself that sleeping early was easy, doing all these habits were easy, but then when a down period came, it was so difficult. So it's about proving yourself again and again that you can show up and do the same things on a consistent basis each and every day. It's not about you doing it for 2 years. It's not about you doing it for 10 years. It's about what you do right now. So I hope you learned a lot of lessons from this down period I had, you know, and also comment below if you also had one of these ruts in your life as well and how you overcame that. You know, I want to see what you guys say, how you guys, what challenges you guys faced and what you did to overcome, because everyone has a different experience and it's interesting on how everyone solves problems. So yeah, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.